Hey, Farm Kids here, and I wanted to answer some questions about herbs. So a lot of people ask, what herbs should I grow? I mean, which ones are the best? And how many of them should I grow? How much? So the biggest question you want to ask is, what do you cook? What herbs do you use the most of when you cook? Those are going to be the ones that you're going to want to grow. So think about if you cook a lot of Mexican food, you're going to want cilantro. If you cook a lot of like spaghetti, lasagna, that kind of thing, you might want more basil and sage. Those are small sage, but chives, they go in a lot of things. Thyme, dill. Dill doesn't go in a lot, but if you cook a lot of things that use dill or make a lot of things that use dill, you're gonna want it. So figure out what you use the most of, and then you want to purchase it. But then the question is, how much? So different plants grow at different rates and produce different amounts. So oregano, this variety we have here it doesn't get very big. So if you cook with a lot of oregano, you're gonna want to get like 2 pots. So there's multiple plants in here. So, or at least there should be multiple plants. The oregano does not have a good germination rate, but you might want to grab multiple. Sage does get pretty big. You'll want to put sage in a big pot, or at least in the ground. So sage gets basically as big as it can with the space and the amount of soil it has. So if you have a big pot, then you're gonna want just one pot. So this has lots of plants in it, so you don't have to worry. The oregano does need a smaller pot though. So yeah, you don't need to put it in anything big. Although you don't want to leave it in that pot, so don't do that. Dill, on the other hand, gets ginormous. Dill can get up to, it can get up to 6 feet tall. So if you do grow dill, make sure you've got a lot of space and make sure you put it in the ground. Now, this is English thyme that we've got here. It doesn't get very big. So if you use a lot of thyme, you're going to want 2 or 3 plants, or at least 2 or 3 pots. So there's multiple plants in each pot, you can see right there. But thyme doesn't get very big, so you don't need to put it in a big pot, or you don't need to put it in the ground. Cilantro does get pretty big too. It can get, I think it can get up to 1.5 feet tall, maybe even more. Another thing with cilantro is you might need to plant different batches, because cilantro, once it goes to seed, it kind of sucks after that. It doesn't produce a lot. So you're definitely gonna want to get it in the ground, or at least in a decent sized pot. And then you're going to want to probably plant multiple batches of it. So cilantro does get pretty big though, so you probably won't need more than 1 or 2 plants per batch. Basil, you'll want to plant definitely 1 or 2 plants. Basil can get pretty big, as you can see from right here. This batch was planted 2 weeks before this batch, so you can definitely see the height difference. So it grows really fast. So when you're purchasing basil, I'd recommend purchasing the smallest plants you can find, because they grow really fast. And once they go to seed, they kind of suck, just like cilantro. They don't do big. The leaves are a lot smaller, and the plant doesn't really do much more growth. So you'll want to get the youngest plant you can and maybe do batches. I don't know if you need to. Basil just has a lot of leaves, so you probably don't need to do batches, because even after going to seed, it will have a lot of leaves. So you should be okay unless you use a lot of basil. Now, chives. These are chives from last year actually, but here's our this year chives, which they're still coming up out of the ground, so they kind of look sad at the moment. There's not many plants in there. But chives are perennials, so make sure that if you plant them in the ground, it's somewhere where they'll be for, until you rip them out of the ground, basically. Chives do get bigger every year, so for the first year, if you only plant 1 plant, you're not going to get a lot, but the next year it'll get bigger. So I'd recommend maybe 1 to 2 plants. So it'll just keep getting bigger. As you can see, these are a lot bigger than these ones. Then we have our sage. This is our first batch of sage. We've sold almost all of them. These are the only 2 left. So our second batch is over here, which I already talked about sage, but you can see this is sage that's 2 weeks older than the other one. Then this is Wandering Time. This one is more for decoration than the other time, which it is edible, but it doesn't have as much flavor. It's not as strong, as potent. But this is a crawling one, so you don't need to put it anywhere high. You might want to give it lots of space though to like kind of flow over the side. As you can see, it just kind of goes over the edge of the pot. Rosemary. So usually rosemary, it grows very slowly, so you can keep it in the same pot for a while, but eventually you'll want to put it in a bigger pot. I don't recommend putting rosemary in the ground. I recommend keeping it in a pot, usually like a 2 to 3 gallon kind of pot, or a 12-inch pot, so nice and big. This is a kind of a crawling variety we have this year. Usually our rosemary kind of goes up, but if you do bring your rosemary plants in during the winter time, they will survive and they will get bigger. So just be prepared to have a bigger pot. So this rosemary is going to be more kind of like that Wandering Time I just showed you, where it'll kind of go over the edge. So usually you'll want to plant it where it has lots of space to go up, but this variety won't be going up. Now we have mint, which I actually have 2 different kinds of mint. I have this one over here. This guy is strawberry mint. It quite literally smells like strawberries. And then this guy, it's a little hard to tell the difference, but you can see in the leaf size and the leaf style between the mojito, which is this other one, and the strawberry. We do have some chocolate mint, but they're really small, so we don't have them up in our main greenhouse. But here's the mojito. Gorgeous as always. Smells really good too. Now that I'm messing with them, I can smell them a lot. So one thing with mint is you definitely want to put it in a pot. You cannot put mint in the ground. It is a perennial and it takes over. So before you know it, your garden, it won't be yours anymore. It's the mint's garden now. So while it is amazing and delicious, you can put it in like your fresh drinks, your tea, your lemonade, or any recipes. It is amazing. You do want to keep it in a pot to keep it contained, and when it's filled up, that pot, you don't need to worry about getting it a bigger pot. So while it might grow out the bottom, it'll just keep getting bigger. It won't stop. So it takes over. So you don't need to feel bad if it's crowded or anything. It's normal for mint. Lavender. Now there's lots of different varieties, different types of lavender. The lavender we sell is a smaller one. It's related to English lavender. Some lavender you can get like bushes, and those do need more space, but these lavenders here, these guys we sell, you just need a decent sized pot. So I'd recommend like, I don't know, a 10-inch pot or something. Maybe like an 8-inch. They're in 4-inch pots at the moment, so honestly even a 6-inch pot would be an upgrade. They will get bigger. These guys we had in smaller pots. We had them in 6-packs and we just transferred them. So even though they were planted at the same time, there's a definite difference. So lavender will get bigger with the bigger the pot it is. So just keep that in mind. But lavender I'd recommend putting in a pot as well. So there you go. Now we don't have any other herbs. We've got some lemon basil, but that's going to be the same rules as the regular basil that we're growing. These are seeds. They haven't come up yet. But that's kind of what kind of pots you're going to need for them. How big, how many. You honestly, for most of the other things over here, rosemary, you're only going to need 1 plant if it gets big enough. So it does take a long time to grow though, so keep that in mind. If you buy it late, you might want to grab multiple plants. Mint, obviously, you only need 1 plant. And for lavender, most people, you don't put lavender in a lot of recipes. It's more for smelling, so I'd recommend 1 plant. But that's my take on herbs. Height, kind of what pots to put them in. how many to purchase, that kind of stuff. So let me know if you have any other questions down in the comments, and I'll answer them if I know the answer. So other than that, have a good day.